control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here to bring you the portal on this fine Friday, the eve. This is live and unrehearsed on December the 14th, and I hope you're having a fantastic Friday night. Welcome to Friday. You made it. You're in the home stretch now. This is now weekend mode. I hope for you. If it's not, I'm terribly sorry. I'm terribly sorry. But special thanks to the Freaky Friday crew. It's always a pleasure to sit back and listen to you guys as I'm getting ready to take over the reins. You guys, I love that bot that they were playing with, that inspirational bot. And I don't think you can ever have enough inspiration, even as broken as that inspiration was. And good luck to you, Jimmy, on playing that for a week. I hope that you find a brighter, better light inside. You know, you never know. It'll reform you. No, Jimmy's a great guy. Longtime friend of the show and a longtime friend of TFR and amazing host in his own right on his Into the Microcosm coming up later here on TFR. But it's an amazing journey always. And welcome to all of you guys that are in the chat rooms. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're hearing the sound of my voice and you would like to be a part of the TFR live community or just the Paranormal Portal community, you have two options that you can get into two amazing chat rooms with a bunch of amazing people. You can go to tfrlive.com/chat, create your own username and password, and get to know everybody in there. A bunch of great people, just amazing personalities and listeners of TFR and, of course, listeners of the Portal currently, but just a lot of fun, and it's such an amazing community in there, so definitely check it out. Otherwise, you can head over to youtube.com/paranormal portal and check out the live stream that's going on there as I simulcast our shows over on our YouTube channel as well. So a couple of options, and again, the YouTube has a bunch of amazing people as well. The chat rooms, most of us hosts on TFR really appreciate our chat rooms. It's like all of the people that are in that community are taking part in the shows. They're taking part in the journeys, in the discussions, and they're bringing things to the table. And they have these amazing, minds, and they're incredible people. So it's always they are always, the chat rooms are always like the unseen host, or they're like the second or third or fourth host on every show. It's just such a big part of the TFR experience, and of course of the Paranormal Portal. Back when I first started doing the show, I was kind of in the I started out on the tail end of the TFR schedule, and it was wonderful. Don't get me wrong, I had no complaints at all. I'm a night owl by nature, so staying up late wasn't a problem. But I'm telling you, if it wasn't for that chat room, it would have been kind of lonely. But they are always there and always a big part of what we're doing, and they continue to be to this day. And a lot of my first guests were from that very chat room on the Paranormal Portal. Just people that were excited about the paranormal and wanted to talk about it and share their experiences and their journeys. And it was really cool. So the chat rooms have always been important to us here on TFR, and I know all the other hosts feel the same way. We consider you guys a part of the family, whichever chat room you're in and whichever format you choose. But welcome to the show. Tonight we're going to do just a journey of the paranormal kind, which is what we do every show. But we're going to do some paranormal encounters tonight. But I want to first of all say thank you to a listener sent a Christmas card. Very cool. And this is from Jess down in Arizona. Really cool. She sent a really beautiful card and some really cool pictures. And she was called into the show and was talking about vortexes. And she lives down in Arizona, and she sent along some pictures. I didn't get her permission to share her personal picture that she sent along, so I won't show that. But she sent some postcards as well of things like, and I'm going to put it up to the camera, so those of you on YouTube, hopefully you'll be able to see this, but this is the Petrified Forest, and it's really a pretty amazing place. You can see these old ancient logs that are now these rock formations, and it's really incredible. And she sent along some these notes on every one of these. But the picture that I thought was really cool is this one. And she says, this is a picture of Bell Rock, the vortex with the masculine energy, and also said to attract UFOs or have sightings there. She says, Paranormal Portal rocks. Well, thank you, Jess. That's so awesome. And thank you so much for the kind card. I'll get this hung up on the wall behind us as well, next to Julia's card. That's very cool. But it's really cool to hear from you guys on a really personal level like this. That's awesome. And a beautiful card, by the way, too. Nice wintry scene. So thank you, Jess. That's really awesome. And then she sent along some tourist information for the Arizona area, which is cool because there's someday Don and I are talking about wanting to take a journey. And it'd be really cool to take a journey across different points of America. And during that journey, I would hope to be able to meet some of you guys that are listening to the show and potentially do some remote broadcasts of the show and get a chance to meet you and see where what your neck of the woods is like. And so I don't know when that will happen, but I know that is something that we're really, really excited about figuring out and putting together. So it'll be really cool to get out there and meet you guys. But thank you guys for taking a part of the show and being a part of it. Thank you, Jess, especially for that card. That was really cool. It's really cool to hear from you, and it was great to see your picture and to see the face of one of the members of the family. So, but before I go any further, there's a story that was sent in from a gentleman out of Russia. And actually, I don't know if it was Russia. Hold on. I copied him and pasted it. One note, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you're going to submit paranormal encounters of your own, please do so in the email. Every once in a while, I'll catch these different encounters posted on videos. And if I don't grab them right then, I forget which video they're on. And, I'd love to share them with the rest of the audience, but I forget which one they're on. And unfortunately, I'm just really swamped right now, so it's hard for me to comb through those and figure out where they are. But if you send them to paranormalportalradio@gmail.com, I can simply slide it into a folder and mark it for use on the show. And it's so much easier for me. So please, if you're going to submit stories, please send them via email to paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. But I want to read this story because it's really cool. And it was a really neat encounter story of this person. So, let's see. Okay, he says, in November of 2015, my pal expired. And around the same time he passed, I had a visitation in my bedroom. I was feeling agitated and decided to go to bed earlier than usual. And it was about 11 a.m. exactly. Hold on, I got to blow this up. Even my word made it small. And I don't have my Paranormal Portal glasses. All right, so let's see. I'd been in bed 40 or so minutes. Or he says, I had a visitation in my bedroom. I was feeling agitated and decided to go to bed earlier. It was than usual, and it was about 11 a.m. exactly. I'd been in bed 40 minutes or so, feeling very odd and out of sorts. I was basically staring at the wall in the darkness when an orangey beige fuzzy ball of light appeared where I was staring. In around 3 seconds of my seeing it, it very quickly transformed into what looked like a wise man, totally human looking, and he was very clear. The man was just staring at me with a look of concern on his face. I could only see him from the lower chest upwards, but he looked like a projection on a screen and not three-dimensional. Nor did he seem to be in my room, but like he was in his own domain looking at me through a window. I could also see some bluey, orangey sky behind him. Anyway, he stared at me for around 30 seconds and then dematerialized. After about a half an hour that occurred, he materialized again. I was still awake, and he just stared at me and I looked slightly less concerned. Excuse me. Again, this lasted about 30 seconds, and then he dematerialized again. And that was that. The next day, my pal had died in the night. This man that appeared was not my friend at all. I didn't recognize him, and the man, I'll call him a spirit man, looked entirely human. He had wiry, black, thick brown hair, like it was perhaps tied in the back, and he looked like he was in his early 50s as far as his age, and his eyes were very, very light brown, almost orangey looking, and he had crow's feet around the eyes too. He had an extremely wispy, short beard and mustache, which oddly was cut shorter on his right side of the jaw. I could only see him from the chest up, and from what I could see, he had a sky blue robe on and looked like a part of the robe was chucked over his right shoulder. And I have no clue as to who the spirit man was, but I would recognize him immediately if I saw him again. Let me pull this up a little bit. And he says, the spirit being had a strong resemblance to the actor Bruce White's from the old TV series Hill Street Blues. This is a very true story, and it has given me no doubts that there is an afterlife. This was in Manchester, England. And very cool. And I think he gave me a correction on the time that it was. I think it was 11 p.m. He says 11 a.m. exactly, but it was 11 p.m. He corrected that after the fact, and I forgot to update my my cut and paste job. So, but very cool, and I really certainly appreciate you sending this in. And his name is Valery Petrovsky. That's my Russian accent, so I hope that worked. But otherwise, it's Valery Petrovsky. So, but I like Valery Petrovsky. I love me some accents, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I love listening to Kev Baker. I love that Scottish sprug. That's awesome. But yeah, I don't know. It's a great story and very cool. And that's the thing with the paranormal. You just don't know when it's going to happen. It's not like we have a paranormal clock and it's almost time for the apparition. You know, we just don't know. It just happens when it happens, why it happens, and it happens. And sometimes, I think, honest to God, I think these things happen all the time. I think they happen all the time. But we are just not capable of always filtering it or, recognizing it, because in our lives, in our Western society lives, and wherever you are, I don't know where you are, but for most of us, we're just always in this kind of rat race mentality. It's like we, as a society and as a people, don't know how to center anymore. We just don't know how. And quite honestly, it's not really encouraged in our modern day. It's not encouraged that we find our center and we find our balance. It's not encouraged that we have this grounded, connected, balanced equilibrium, so to speak. We are pushed in so many ways in our lives and in our days, and we are constantly bombarded with all kinds of stimuli. We are overstimulated to a crazy degree in our modern societies. We are overstimulated with tastes. And okay, let's just break this down a little bit, okay? And this kind of has to do with the paranormal, so bear with me. But the Paranormal Portal is not just about ghost stories. It's about everything to, finding that energetic center, to, getting in touch with your true source, to, finding the energy balance and everything, to ghosts, to aliens, to everything else. And how I think it's all interrelated. It isn't just there are ghosts and then there's everything else, and there are UFOs and then there's everything else. I think that they're all interrelated in that when we're able to find our center, when we're able to live in balance, and when we're able to get in touch with ourselves, then our eyes are open. And all of these things that seem like quirky hiccups of reality, like, oh my God, a person just walked through my wall and I don't understand. But these things are probably always around us. It's just they normally can't get through our overstimulated, minds. And I was talking about food a second ago. Now, take, for instance, foods, okay? Now, it used to be where you could, make a pie and it would be good enough. And it would be sweet and lovely and good and all of that. But then we got these super processed foods. And in order to combat the fact that they're super processed foods, they start adding flavorings. They bring the flavor profile way back up, and then they jack it up even more with these molecular enhancers that make these, they make your Twinkie just about jump through the top of your roof in flavor, of your mouth. They add all these things to just overstimulate your sense of taste. You go get a drive-through burger and it's just like the juices just explode in your mouth in this chemical, chemical soup of food and chemical additives and stuff. And so, I mean, they feel the need to overstimulate the senses. You turn on your television and you're bombarded with these flashing images and these amazing graphics and these, incredible imagery that makes, looking out in the yard kind of boring. Like, I could watch starfighters having a galactic battle here, or I can watch the birds at the fountain, And so many people would rather turn on the TV and jack up the surround sound and just pound that stimulus into them. And it just numbs us over a sense of time. Take, for instance, the media, like our movies. It used to be good enough to make, some little models and put them against a black screen with pinholes of light coming through, and fish line and make it look like a spaceship going through space. And now that's not good enough. Now we need, 3D modeled graphics, and virtual physics, and, oh, that looks too fake. It doesn't look real, or it looks super real, or, it's just, we keep needing more stimuli from these artificial places. And as they keep giving us this stimuli, our natural equilibrium is just being pounded to hell. We can't find your balance anymore because we don't even remember what it looks like, because everything else is just being pounded into us. You have fake scents put in your car because you don't want to smell the car. You've got colognes, you've got perfumes, you've got, so many things. And I'm not putting any of it down, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I use colognes and perfume, deodorants, and I like my car to smell a little bit like a pine tree. That's kind of cool. But my point is that we have to remember that there's a counterbalance to all that. And you need to make some space in that for your life. And when you do, when you find those balances, then the paranormal is not so unusual. Maybe it happens more often. Maybe there's always things going on around us. And as we expand our focuses, we're able to see those things and able to appreciate them. Now, I'm kind of on a soapbox right now. I hope you guys don't mind, but I think it's important to share these thoughts because there's a lot of people out there doing paranormal. There really is. And they're doing a fantastic job. A lot of them are doing an amazing job talking about different phenomena and things, and they're doing wonderful. And I do the same thing here in the portal. But I like to take it a step further and, make sure that people understand that I believe that the paranormal is not where reality got all screwed up, where things kind of went sideways. I don't think it's the quirk. It's not the where it was like a misfire in the dimensions. It's showing us the breadcrumbs. It's showing us that things are much more amazing and dynamic than we could possibly understand. And there's so many people on TFR, especially, and not only on TFR, all over the place, that are talking about these awakenings, awakening yourself, becoming your creator being. And Frank and Paula talk about it. Chris and Cherie have been doing it for a long time and talking about raising consciousness. And once you raise the consciousness, all of these fantastic things suddenly become a part of everything. And it's not so fantastical. It's just the truly amazing reality that we live in. So that's why I'm talking about these things, is that I think, we need to find those balances so that we can get in touch with our true selves, find out how deep we go. We think we're just these little skin suits with a little light in them that walk around, and until the the meat suit expires, and then our little light goes away. And some people believe we do it again, some people don't. Believe that you want to stand in at some gates waiting for somebody to let you in, or kick you out, whatever. But the truth is that we're more than just that. We are incredible sparks of the universe, and we have within us this amazing potential that gets lost because we're pounded into this idea of submission and 9 to 5 and paying your bills and just get by. That's good enough, and maybe you can save up and get that car. It's like it's all so damn cosmetic, But I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those things. Get the nice car, have the nice house, but find balance. Balance is the key. So that's kind of my 20-minute diatribe on that. But I hope you guys understand. Now, the phone lines are open tonight, and I welcome you guys to call in and become a part of it. If you have something to share or something to say along those lines, that's great too. But the paranormal encounters are not just these fantastical, weird things. They can sometimes be these amazing manifestations. For instance, I'm going to tell you guys a quick story. And this was a while back, about, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago. And at the time, my wife and I, was prior to my little one being born, but I've got 2 other wonderful children that are older, but from different relationships. But it was my wife's birthday, and things were really tight at this time because I had some health issues and was out of a job. We were just totally barely scraping by, and it got to be my wife's birthday, and I only had X number of dollars in the bank account. And this is a little personal, but bear with me. There's an amazing story behind this, and it's not anything super huge, but it does demonstrate some amazing things, I think. So we were really tapped out at that time, and it was my wife's birthday. Now, she's not an extravagant person. She doesn't need all kinds of, I need diamonds, I need a new SUV or anything like that. She's not that way. She's not real cosmetic. She just wants to be happy. And one of the things she really loved to do, near where we lived at the time, there was this casino. And they have this amazing buffet on there, a seafood buffet, certain nights of the week. And she really wanted to go. And I was so stressed because these bills came up and we only had so much money left in the account. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. I said to myself, I'm not going to let that stop me from celebrating this day with her and doing something for her that was incredibly special. So I said, you know what? We're going to get in the car. Let's go. We're going to go have a dinner. And she's like, really, really? She was all excited because she knew, how tight things were for us. And we got in the car and we were driving, and we lived kind of rurally at the time. So we had to drive into the town, which then the casino was on the other side of the town. So as we're going through town, I stopped at the convenience store to get a little bit of gas, and I found in my car this lottery ticket. And I pulled it out, and it was a Powerball ticket. And I was like, I should just go check this out. And so I went in, and I paid for the gas, and I handed him the ticket. And all of a sudden, the little alarms went off. Dee-dee-dee. And I'm like, what happened? They said, oh, my God, you won $100. And it was at that right moment I had made this commitment to take her out and celebrate her and not let this worldly concern stop it. And somehow, it's like the universe stepped in and went, we're going to make this okay. Now, you may say, well, that was always there. You always had one. I didn't know it, though. And up until that moment, I didn't need it. But when I did need it, that one random ticket that I had, that I found, was a $100 ticket. It paid for our night and then some. I mean, it was just amazing. It was this serendipity of that moment. And I decided not to let my fear shape what we were going to do and whether or not we were going to celebrate that moment. So I put the fear away, made this commitment, we're going to do it, whatever hell or high water we're going to go have this night. And as soon as we got there, it's just like, pow, we, came up with this $100 winner on the lottery, and they handed me $100, and everything was fine. So we can manifest that, ladies and gentlemen. I really believe that. And I think that's an example of us creating, our path. Our path was created. And it was, I think the lesson in that for me personally was fear. Do you live afraid? Do you let that fear shape your experience and keep you from your experience? Do you allow that to control you and define who you are? Or do you act through that in trust, in faith, in yourself, or in your divine light, or whatever you want to call it? It doesn't matter, because it's all semantics. But when you allow fear to shape your experience, you are allowing other things control. And so for me, it was an incredibly profound experience, and it was the perfect thing at the perfect time. And I wasn't afraid. I just said, screw it, we're going to do this. And it was like, boom, it was right there. It was this rewarding moment, and it was a great night. It was a really cool night, and I wouldn't have had that moment if I hadn't just thrown it out there and said, we're going. I'm going to shape this path. I'm going to shape this journey. And I'm not going to do it because I'm afraid. I'm going to do it because I'm celebrating life. So take that for what it's worth. It was my experience. Incredibly strong, incredibly powerful. But we're going to go to our first break, ladies and gentlemen. So don't go away, because we're going to get to the spooky in a little bit here. But I got another thing I want to cover when we come back. It's going to be a little bit of a little FYI for paranormal research, paranormal investigating, ghost hunting. I want to go over something real quick. It won't take long, but I think it's good information, and we'll cover it in a few minutes. So don't go away. We'll be right back with more Paranormal Portal in just a couple minutes.
TFR.
And welcome back. Unmute myself. Note to self, unmute. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I hope you're having a wonderful night, and I hope you're enjoying the journey so far. I just got permission to share another story, which is kind of similar in the case of things just falling right where they want or need to be. And I hope you guys like it. But to me, it's a beautiful, incredible story, and it literally gave me chills. It was so profound. So here's the situation. We have a listener on YouTube, and her name is Diana Orcutt. Wonderful person and a longtime friend and supporter of the portal, and just a really wonderful person. And she was telling me a tale of hers recently, and it's really, really incredible. Now, Diana also submitted a story to the show about meeting a spirit of a man who was in a coma. A dear friend showed up at her house, sat with her, talked with her, and she didn't realize that he was in the hospital. Very, very cool, very, very powerful story. Now, she shared this other one with me, and I think this is incredible as well. Equally as amazing. So here's the situation. And I'm sure she has so many more stories to share, but this is the most recent one. So she was working in I think she's an accountant, as I recall, and she had a really bad day at work. So she told me at the end of the day, she's like, well, it had to get better, and then she was really cool and donated to the portal, which was really awesome too. But so she had a really bad day at work, and she said, it was just one of those things that I knew that, well, I've had the worst day possible, so everything else has just got to get better. So she went back to work the next day, and she allegedly got fired. And it was really tragic, it seemed, and really horrible, and I'm sure, but she was okay with it. She was just really balanced with it. And so she's like, okay, and so she got her stuff together and went home. Now, when she got home, her father-in-law lives with her, and she noticed that he hadn't been up lately, that he hadn't been up yet for the day. So she went and checked on him, and he was in his bedroom and said that he felt horrible and was having chest pains. So she quickly got him into the car to the hospital, to the emergency room, and it turns out he was having a heart attack. Now, that in and of itself is, amazing. And the amazing part of it is, ladies and gentlemen, that if she hadn't have lost her job, she would have never come home, and she would have never found him suffering chest pains, and she could have never gotten him to the emergency room to save his life. And so it was very, very perfect timing. It was that dark moment that she didn't judge it. She didn't allow that to define it, and it turned out that it was exactly what needed to happen. It was exactly what needed to happen for her to get home and to find her father-in-law suffering chest pains and having a heart attack. Now, the story gets better because now she went to an interview and has since been hired at a new job at quite a bit more money and quite a bit better situation for her. She wasn't happy in the other job anyway. So it's that serendipity of events. And I shared with her a story, and it's a story I heard years ago, and I'm going to share it here. You guys take it or leave it. I'm not going to define it for you, but listen to the story and find whatever meaning you can from it. But I told her, I said, Diana, this reminds me of an old Buddhist tale that I had heard years and years and years ago. And she goes, what's that? So the story goes, there's an old farmer and his son, and they're very poor, but they have a small farm. And they were out in the field one day, and they were tending to the fields with their one horse lashed out. They were plowing the field to get it ready for planting. And they had to work really hard. And as they were working and toiling in the field, the hitchings of the horse came loose, and it ran off into the forest, and they couldn't find it. And all the neighbors said, oh, my God, that's such terrible news. And the old farmer said, well, good news, bad news, who knows? And so the old farmer and his son are doing the best they can to plow the fields by hand to get the fields ready. And as they're on the fields, the old horse returns with 2 wild horses. And all the neighbors are like, wow, that's phenomenal news. And the old farmer's like, well, good news, bad news, who knows? And so the farmer and his son were working with these wild horses, and the farmer's son was trying to break one of the horses so they could use it to help in the fields to plow the fields. And as he was trying to break the horse threw him, and he broke his leg. And all the neighbors like, oh, that's terrible news. And the old farmer said, well, good news, bad news, who knows? A week later, the army came recruiting for soldiers for the war, and the farmer's son couldn't go because he had a broken leg. Good news, bad news, who knows? So I'll leave that with you guys, and you can just find whatever meaning you want from it, but I think it's an incredible story. But it's just an amazing thing when you don't let fear define your experience, when you move past fear. Just a quick side note, if you look at the media, all of the politics, it's all based around fear right now. Don't feed into it. Don't buy into it. Whatever side, doesn't matter. Just don't do it through fear. You know, fear can never shape a future. You can't shape a future based on fear. You can shape a future based on hope. You can shape a future based on love. You can shape a future based on a vision of a better thing, but not on fear. We can't create a world out of fear. So whatever that means, I'm just putting it out there. I don't mean to preach. I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen. When I started doing the portal, I didn't want it to be about me, and it's certainly not about my dogmatic beliefs, whatever they may be. But it's just, I think that we need to find our center. We do. And so that's what this first section of the show has been about. Again, take it or leave it. So tonight I wanted to take a few minutes to go over some best practices. A lot of people right now, ghost hunting, paranormal investigating is kind of a huge thing. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I wanted to just take a couple moments and show you just a couple things about EVPs. EVPs are electronic voice phenomena, and I think anybody that's interested in the paranormal understands about this. And basically the idea is that oftentimes spirit voices are not projected in a way that we can hear with our ears. But the idea is that the microphones on mini cassette recorders or mini digital recorders can pick up a wider range than we can hear, and perhaps by electronic interference, spirits can communicate into these things to record their voices. And a couple of things that I wanted to point out, because you see it quite often in paranormal shows, not so much on like Ghost Adventures and other things, but I guess you see it quite often on YouTube, is what I should say. Not so much on the paranormal shows, because most of those guys know what they're doing as far as using the equipment that they have, most of them. But EVPs are fantastic, but the problem with these little units is they are great for picking up voices. They're great for picking up EVPs, but they are also subject to all kinds of problems as far as false positives. Now, I can't tell you how many times I've watched, even on those shows, even on those ghost shows which are on TV, they talk about, oh, can you hear it? It's like, it says, oh yeah, he likes pizza. It's like, how did you get that out of, They create these messages out of what seems to be anomalous sound. And anomalous sound can be introduced into these things pretty easily because these microphones are really extraordinarily sensitive. So just by virtue of me holding it and having any motion in my fingers can create that because any vibration on the casing of this, even just rubbing my finger absently, or if I just brush it against something, is going to create, a sound anomaly in a micro cassette recorder or a micro recorder. And so it's incredibly important, if you are doing electronic voice phenomena, to hold it and hold it steady. Try not to move. I'm going to try to demonstrate something here. Hold on. I'm going to make just a light noise into a light wind on the microphone. So hold on a second. Okay, now I've blown a couple times on there, just lightly, a very gentle breeze with my lips onto the microphone of the recorder. Now we're going to hear how that sounds like with the recorder. So I'm going to play it back. Okay. Now. All right. Did you hear that? That is pretty freaking a lot of noise for just a really gentle breeze from my mouth. Movement through a space can create that kind of breeze over these microphones. And that's where people are like, oh my God, it said we're going to kill you. Creating those sounds. So it's really important to try to find a space where there's no breeze going on at all. It's important to hold the recorder incredibly steady. Best case scenario is you're not holding it at all. You rest it on a space and turn on the recorder, move back so you're not anywhere near it, and hopefully there's no ambient breeze or anything, and then ask your questions, do sessions. The next thing, and this is something that most people know, but when you're doing an EVP session, leave lots of space between your questions, okay? Because it may take moments for a spirit to be able to manifest a voice onto a recorder. It may take many moments. So you don't go, what's your name? What are you doing here? What do you want from us? Did you have a message you want to pass on? You can't do a normal conversational kind of dialogue because you're never going to catch something. And if you do catch something, you're stomping all over it with your own voice. Now, another best practice when you're doing EVPs, if you move, tag your audio. If you hear an anomalous sound like a car passing by, tag your audio. So you're doing your EVP session, you're walking around, you squeaky floorboard, it's like, oh, squeaky floorboard, walking through the, hallway, tag it so that when you're listening back, you're like, what the hell was that? Did you hear that squeak? People, you forget. When you're reviewing the audio, you may have hours of audio to review after doing a ghost hunt or a paranormal investigation. Tag your audio. If you're hearing sounds with your ears, tag it. If you're not hearing it, and then you hear it in replay when you're reviewing your evidence, then you'll know it's anomalous. Make sure, again, Dan has been on the show several times, make sure your date and time is absolutely correct before you start your session, because if you're recording with video as well, you may need to challenge one thing versus another. Like, well, it didn't pick up a weird noise on the camera. I wonder if we caught anything on the recorder. It's best to have multiple sources going so you can corroborate that. There's one other thing. Tag the audio. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it'll occur to me in a second. But there's a lot of people doing these things, but doing them very wrong. So I just blew very, very gently on the mic, and you heard the kind of sound that creates. These mics are extraordinarily sensitive. And sometimes even little subtle noises like a chair noise, it may not even register to you consciously, but it's going to definitely record on your media. So just something I wanted to go over quick with you guys, some best practices for taking EVPs. If you're going to do ghost investigating or hunting or anything like that, make sure, hold it extraordinarily steady. Make sure to keep your fingers away from wherever the microphone input is. You don't want anything even near that. It's best to just hold it at the very base like this, very still, and ask your questions. But best case scenario, you're not holding it at all. You may set out some kind of softer surface, maybe even on a rock or something. It could be, some ambient noise from any kind of movement. So, but it'll take time. These things are not, they do take practice. Nothing is Nothing is, just what is it, point and click kind of stuff. So I just wanted to take a few moments to discuss that because it's I think something that a lot of people are trying to do, but there's a lot of people making some pretty fundamental mistakes. So something we could cover here pretty easily. So hope you enjoyed that little segment in the Paranormal Portal. So let's get into some stories, shall we? Let me take a look at the phone, make sure if anybody's trying to call in. I'm happy to hear from you guys. There's a phone call from Mr. Sean. How you doing, Sean? You're on the air.
Hey, Brent. Am I coming in okay?
You
Trying
are.
a different mic.
You're coming in wonderfully. Good to hear from you.
Okay. Good to be on. Since you're actually talking about something that I have a lot of experience with, which is that I don't know what you would call it exactly in English, but in thaumaturgy,
Mm-hmm.
it is this synchronicity of events where things are lined up for good things to occur, so long as you know how to get out of your own way. And my first experience with it was when I was 16, and Joel had just gone off to the military, so I'm pretty much by myself. And I had I'd been left alone for about 2 months. My mom had gone to England,
Mm-hmm.
and my bedroom, I'd just come home from school, and this is April, and it was probably about 83 degrees outside. And I walk into the room, and it's like walking into a meat locker. I actually could see my breath,
Wow.
and I was really scared. This is the first time that anything had ever decided that it was going to come and be antagonistic right away.
Mm-hmm.
The my the closet, my closet actually had a set of double doors.
Okay.
It's just two half-size doors that my dad had put on there, so that you could push them both in, and they would go in from both walls, on left and right side. And as I stood there, both of them slammed against the inside of the closet, inwards.
Oh, jeez.
And I heard something. Yeah, I heard something, and I was so frightened that past experience, I just didn't stick around. I just turned around and ran.
Uh-huh.
The only people who I could go to was our next door neighbors that my mother was renting the house to, a Cuban couple that had moved in, and I only the wife was at home, and I'd spoken to her about it and told her what I was dealing with and what just happened, and she actually came with me over to the house, walked in, and felt the cold. She says, there's some things you just have to pray over, and I tried praying, tried everything that she recommended. Couldn't stay in the room that night. The room was cold. I tried sleeping in the bed.
Mm-hmm.
It was just there was something that would sit down on both sides of my legs and pin the quilt so that I couldn't move my legs. I had to literally yank myself out and then get out of the room.
Uh-huh.
There was no sleeping.
Wow.
And so my mother comes home a couple of days later, and she's got this book that she says, "Oh, this is look, it's a Tolkien. I brought you home Tolkien." No, it wasn't. Once again, there's that synchronicity. So I'm looking at it, and on the front, it's got a name. It was completely different from what she was saying, and it was. I started perusing the book, and it was on thaumaturgy. Now, to understand what thaumaturgy is, what is it? What it's just a big word. Well, it is, but it is actually, it means following the miracles of the Creator.
Oh.
It comes from the teachings in the Kabbalah. It is so if you ever hear anybody say Kabbalah dangerous demon, nothing to do with that. It's stupidity. It's actually understanding the paths that are laid out in front of you that foster the good for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
and using that energy to protect yourself and to follow the Creator's will. Whatever Creator it is, you can name it whatever you please. So I read this book from cover to cover, and actually did what it said and drove the thing off.
Wow.
It was not happy that I did that. And so here I'm at 16. I've done this. I thought, well, that was lucky. Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking. Lucky. I just got through reading all this, and I thought, no, that was lucky. Mm-hmm. And now I tell you this story because now the one that's really germane to the moment actually occurs.
Okay.
About 7 years later, I'm in Idaho. This is the summer that the marshal was shot, the sheriff was killed, and the standoff was happening.
Mhm.
Everybody who was a white supremacist had decided that here's the race war is going to happen. Make your way up there for the summer. Every job that could be gotten was now taken up by people who had, I'm not kidding, Klan tattoos of Klan members on their shoulders, had keychains that said "Outstanding Klan Member of the Year." Joel and I were working side by side with some of these guys at the Julia Davis Fun Spot in downtown.
Wow.
Now they thought I was okay because, well, I look Caucasian, but my last name belies that reality.
Right.
And so they were going to destroy Joel when he came out of the restroom in the hot dog shack.
Oh,
and I took umbrage with that.
Mm-hmm.
So a few minutes later, Joel came out, and I was already gone, and there was 3 guys patching themselves up. And I realized I couldn't stick around anymore.
Right.
And I thought, I'm either going to run scared or I'm going to be in a mountain of trouble, and I don't know what to do. So I left all my possessions behind and decided that I was going to have to go and hide somewhere where these guys weren't going to find me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, people like that have connections, so they did. And it took a long, long chase before finally they ended up having to give up because, well, you can only carry so many shotgun shells and shoot at such a distance, hoping that you're going to hit the person before you do run out, and then you realize you're going to have to go back to the car, and then it's my turn.
Oh.
So now it's about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, way down the Boise Cascade River. I got no idea where I am, and there's no town around. There's nothing around. I have no idea where I am. I'm assuming I could have continued back up the river, but I'm now thoroughly exhausted, and I've got no energy left. And I hear this sound coming from behind me, and I realized that it was the thing had finally followed one last time. And this time, as I turned around, all the fear drained out of me. I got to that moment where I'm no longer afraid, and I actually was in the moment that they describe in the book, which is where you're not only at peace, but you have given up to the will of what is next, what is meant to come. Not defeat, not at all.
Right.
But now you no longer are surrendering to fear, to worry, to doubt, to upset, to railing against what the unfair. And the next thing I know, I'm just light and suffused with it.
Wow.
And the thing is frightened because now it realizes I've had too much time to myself. And I had that moment where when 4 good old boys were chasing me down the river, where I lost the last little bit of fear I had of death. And so it realized it was outmatched.
Wow.
And in the end, it ended up trapped for good. I'm not going to go into much detail there.
Sure.
But that was the first time that I got that synchronization where it was the fear is gone. I no longer am trying to wrestle control. That's the thing. You can't wrestle control of the next moment. You have to realize there's a path in front of you. There's the path that you want to control, and then there's the one that you're meant to go with. It's your choice. It really is your choice. It is your choice to let the rest of this stuff stop controlling you. It's as much your choice as it is your choice to be fearful. You actually have to decide that, to run on terror, to run on reactionaryism, to run as just this cause and effect. The moment you slip that cause and effect and just realize that what is meant for you is already in place, because it is in thaumaturgy, it's a saying, as above, so below. It's like when the particles that are completely separated can manipulate one another, or they will react in exactly the same fashion. That quantum entanglement. When you finally slip into that entanglement, it's very freeing and at the very same time, very empowering.
Yeah.
And when you were describing that, that's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah.
That very first moment. I've had many more since then, but that was the most powerful one because it made me change the way I was looking at how I deal with these things. Instead of just, it's a knee-jerk response. I don't want it to be here. Do something else. Instead, to follow the path that is like a golden highway that actually feeds you on more good moments, where it's literally a trail of happy moments that continues to move on and move you forward. It's not perpetual happiness. It's just takes away that painful doubt and painful fear that constantly wrestles with you to give in.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and I agree completely. And we're just coming up to the break, but I want you to hold on the line. Do you have a moment, or do you have to go?
Sure.
Okay.
No, I've got plenty of time.
I do want to continue this dialogue.
I'm sorry I spoke so long.
No, I actually want you to speak longer because I'm going to ask you some things on the other side of the break. So don't apologize for speaking.
Okay.
That's what the show's all about, and I'm glad to hear your thoughts. And I just want to share some other ideas on the other side. But we're going to go to our next break, ladies and gentlemen, and we will be back in just a few minutes with more of the Paranormal Portal with our phoning guest, Mr. Sean Gonzalez. So we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, ripping scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. Just make sure that you're well fed. I'm not broken yet. I'm not broken yet.
I can see you, Mommy. Where are you? I've never sensed anything like it. Carol Ann is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force. It is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeists are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
Welcome back to the Portal, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and this is the Paranormal Portal. I'm just all kinds of excited to be here with you because that's how I roll. I love me some Portal time, and I love it when you guys are here with me making this so incredibly special. And right now we are joined by our phone-in guest, Mr. Sean Gonzalez. So welcome back, Sean.
Thank you.
You are welcome, and you brought up some great points, and I think that you're absolutely right. And what I wanted to talk to you about was the manifestation of will. Do you think that this is it's more about manifesting will in that you can consciously or subconsciously or consciously create the flow of events? Or do you think it's just a matter of release and trust in some higher power to steer for you? You know, the whole Jesus take the wheel thing. And I'm not degrading Jesus, or anything like that. That's not what I mean. But, some people say, well, I just tell Jesus take the wheel. It's like, well, Jesus isn't autopilot, but and neither is God or anything else. You know what I mean? It's not like you hit the Jesus button and then you go take a nap. You still got to participate. You still got to manifest and create and be in those moments. Would you agree with that?
Yes, it is the most important part of actually. It's not passive participation.
Right.
Like cruise control only controls the speed. The rest of the machine is in your hands, and so you have to actually be a willing participant and a knowledgeable participant. You have to know that you're participating and know that your participation is mandatory. Just checking out and going, okay, I'm not going to do anything. Just you take over. That's not how free will works.
Right.
In fact, in the Kabbalah and in the teachings in Thaumaturgy, the basics are to understand that the first power is will.
Mm-hmm.
It's will, knowledge, daring, and understanding.
Very cool.
Those are the four basic understandings: to will, to know, to dare, and to keep silent while understanding. Silence is a mandatory for learning. These are how you learn, and this is how you also direct yourself into this flow of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And years later, quick anecdote. Years later, after the first story, where I'm with my fiance. She's stressed about everything. We can't have a child. She's worried. The doctors told her that we can't have kids because she has these cysts. Endometriosis is terrible, and I once again go into that place, and I'm in that place, and it says it's okay. Don't worry about it. Let everything take care of itself, because it's already taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
If this was the end of the story, you'd be looking back and going, this was wonderful. This was a wonderful story. And so these little insights, they come to you when you have that. It's like, yes, just if you this was the end of the story, you'd be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay. So we'll get married. We get married at the Coronaburg Fair in Corona, California. And my mother is talking to my wife, and my wife, she's saying, I'm really hot. I'm just glad this is all over. She says, honey, are you pregnant? No. The doctor said we can't get pregnant. Now she's had irregular periods once every 3 months, but at this point, after we'd gone to the honeymoon, we come back and it's 5 months now, no period. So I said, you need to go to the doctor now. And she calls me at work and says, do you want the good news or the bad news first? I said, well, give me the bad news. Well, it's only going to be a few more months before you're a dad, and we don't have much time to prepare. And so,
wow, that's pretty cool. And that's an amazing story. Go ahead.
Sorry, and it all came from that moment of just letting go. But the next part of the same story, just real quick.
No, take all the time you want.
We're in the delivery room, and they've given my wife too much Pitocin. My son is actually 3 weeks late, and this thing has come to me again and said, it's time now. There's no more time left. We got to go. Your doctor has delayed things too long. So we go in there, and I'm joking with my wife, and she's having contractions, and things are moving along swimmingly. And the attending doctor comes in and says, we're going to have to do a C-section. I said, it's okay. And he says, you're not worried? I said, my wife's doing the hard part. I just get to sit here and wait.
Right.
He says, well, you're not worried of everything. I said, my son is already in my arms. You just don't see it yet. And he says, that's a good attitude. I said, trust me, I've already seen him. And my grandfather's already spoken about it. It's not a problem. And he says, he said, I've never seen a dad so calm before. I said, because I'm not the one who's driving this truck. I swear, it's okay. And so my son was born on the 28th of December, and he came out, of course, 3 weeks late. So he popped his eyes open and looked around and was like, why is everything so bright? Opened his own eyes. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. I just think that's an incredible serendipity. But I think, that's the thing is I think that there's always versions of what can happen, but it depends on our participation, and not whether or not we're participating, but how we're participating. Everybody's heard the story of the Cherokee grandfather talking to the young grandson about the two wolves. I mean, everybody's heard about that, and it's a beautiful story, and it makes a lot of sense. But I think it not only shapes the people that we are, which are the wolves you feed, but it shapes the world around us as well. In that we are not just encased in these skin suits. We are a part of the energy of all things. And when we feed the good wolf, you know the story I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. But when we feed that good wolf, we are also not only creating our peace of mind and our peace of existence, but we are shaping the entire universe around us. That it doesn't just exist within us. The idea of this separation that people are so programmed to believe, and the idea is that we have to, earn our acceptance into this divine afterlife. But until then, we're mulling around on this outland and just trying to, pull the cart and be a good horse. But we are tied in energetically to every bit of energy in this entire multiverse. And when we create and manifest that positivity and that light, that it shines from us, and it changes the face of everything, not just our own personal little microcosm, but the macrocosm as well. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the things in thaumaturgy is one of the intonations. So that it basically they want it to be part of your mantra, is to understand when they say as above, so below, but it's the entire thing is above, below, within, without. So it's permeates everything, above, below, within, without.
I like that.
These are the tenets that we need to absorb, because we have to. Oh my gosh, what's the best way to explain this? Because it's so hard to. I'd have to take you over. It's life experiences that I've had that have taught me how to let this thing go. But for the outsider, understanding that you are already the best person that you can be. You just haven't yet let them out. You haven't yet. If you're not there yet, it's simply because you don't realize that you really are there, and all of this other stuff that's clinging to you, sort of like an overloaded donkey. It doesn't need to be on the donkey. The donkey can run free.
Right.
It or a horse or a cart. The cart, the horse doesn't have to pull the cart. When the weights are too ridiculous, you learn to look back and say, why am I pulling this? What is that there for? Is there anything really important in this pile? And you look at and you start sifting through it, and you realize when you get to those moments of near death or those moments of clarity, that a lot of this stuff just doesn't need to be on the cart. You don't even need to pull the cart.
Right.
It's almost as if you could go from one place to the other, and you find everything you need along the way.
Right.
I've actually gone on trips where I had not enough money, and we didn't know if we were going to be able to maintain it. But I simply just said, okay, we'll let things unroll themselves, and then found we had more money, or we had a better time than we thought by simply turning from the original path that we thought we had to follow, and following instead of going to a beach party, we found a place that was near Ventura that had that talked about the Channel Islands, and where my youngest was not happy about the idea of going to the beach. He was overjoyed with all the stuff that we found in there and all the things that we were able to do, and ended up going to a different beach where they had much more fun. And it's by simply letting circumstance turn your path without grumbling and go, maybe this isn't the way I should go.
Right. I really like what you're saying too, because I wrote a book. It's called Reflections of a Growing Soul, and it's something that I wrote most of back in 2001. I've since re-edited it, and I'm looking at perhaps publishing it somehow, whether self-publishing or whatever. But in there, I was talking about enlightenment, and what I came up with back in 2001. And this is just through, reflecting on my own life and experience, was that enlightenment is not, finding your way back to the garden, in other words, the Garden of Eden. But enlightenment is opening your eyes and realizing we never left,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's that.
It's a beautiful thing to actually find the beauty in the faces of all the people around you, because they don't even realize that it's there.
Right.
Some of the things that I do for helping people is just in informing them that everything's going to be okay. For the most part, that's literally 9/10 of what I have to do. That to let them know everything's fine. You just don't realize it's fine yet. Just let me know when you want me to do what you need me to do, and everything's going to be fine. And are you sure that things can come back? I need to have some kind of I'm here to open the door to show you the possible, because now once you know what is possible, then you will say, well, what can I do? And then that leads you down the next path. That's why I really knew I had to get out there and be helpful, because it's not just what I can do. It's the lives that I leave behind that are pushed in the correct direction. Sometimes they take the nudge. Sometimes they don't, because they get back into that frame of mind where, you got to grab onto everything and hold on to every moment. And
No,
you
that's
can't. You
perfect.
can't slow time down. You can't speed it up. You can't make tomorrow today. You can't make yesterday now. You can't have everything that you want, but you can want and love the things that come your way, because it can be so amazing. Just little moments, and you need to find your way to stay in those moments, because then once it happens, you recognize it. You recognize the state, and you realize that it can be maintained. Even in the face of serious paranormal stuff, that was one of the things I had to convey to a family that was being just ripped to pieces. They didn't realize that over half of what they had to deal with was their own, how they dealt with it. It's like Captain Jack Sparrow said, the problem ain't the problem, mate. The problem is how you're dealing with the problem.
Yeah, that's very cool. Now, let me ask you this. So we're talking about a lot about just releasing the fear and trusting the process. But I think it even goes a step further, and you can tell me what you think about this, is that not only can things work out, but by releasing the fear, we're actually actively manifesting the good, and we can also see a flow of events, and we can undo a negative energy that's forming. So, like, for instance, things are just going horrible, and you can tell that something really nasty is going to come up. But if you focus on that and pull away that negative energy, you can reshape it and create an entirely different situation. In other words, manifesting a different reality. Would you agree that that's possible?
Yes.
Yeah, I do too. I think
it's the very nature of following the golden path.
Okay. Well, see, I'm more of a thaumaturgist than I thought.
Thaumaturgy is simply just, it really means working in the miracles of the Creator. Really, it's just miracle working. If you want to get down to the two parts of the Greek word, the energy of creation, and by simply going with the Creator's flow or the creation flow, you actually become an active participant in creating not only reality but good energy, good outcomes, happy feelings, love, everything that goes with it. And so conversely, and this is for everybody who listens to the radio on your channel, okay, which means every time you give in to fear and hate and loathing, and that person doesn't believe what I believe politically, and the troll got me online, and that person in World of Warcraft, and I hate these people, I just hate these people. You have to realize you don't hate them. They annoyed you in some way because some part of you wants an expectation to always manifest itself in a way that is simply not giving into the reality that other people are out there are real. Right. They are all real. And they all deserve to have their feelings just like you do. And they get to have their feelings even around you. Okay, it's not an insult. It's not anger. It's a manifestation of what they've learned, and you can't take umbrage with what they've learned any more than you can go, well, you know what, you should be mad at what I learned because reasons. It doesn't work. It just keeps a negativity flowing around you, and it pushes into the world and just makes everything worse around you. It is okay to dislike ignorance. It's okay to dislike hate. It's okay to dislike all the negative things out there. In fact, you should. But you can't actively send your negativity into a person or at them. It's like the old saying, hate is swallowing poison and hoping the person that you are angry with will die. And it's simply not going to work.
No.
My father, on Christmas Day, when I turned 6, because of this thing affecting him, as well as his own inner demons, because he was very easily affected, this thing took him and made him beat me until I was black, blue, and concussed.
Yeah.
So for everybody, when they say, well, you must hate Christmas, I don't hate Christmas.
Right.
I'm sorry that my dad went through whatever he went through. And I remember his eyes. It looked like a shark's eyes, not really alive, not really dead.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really there when he was doing what he was doing. And when I was in my teens, I hated him. It got worse and worse until that breakthrough came, and I nearly fainted from hearing a song that reminded me of my dad. I literally nearly passed out while hanging up clothes on a clothesline. And I realized this isn't doing me any good. Something is got to give. I've got to get rid of this. And so I went back to the book, and I'm reading in there that these earthly connections. And now earthly connections do not mean love or filial connections or familial connections. No, earthly connections really means, in the original text, connections that are base, that are negative, that are you greed, jealousy, all those things. Those are earthly connections, and they cheapen your existence so that you cannot climb out of that. And a lot of negative entities feed on that. When you see these things where people talk about they have a haunting or a thing comes after them, it's because they're feeding on that. They're attached to that. It's not always the light. It's the person may have a light, but there's a connection to something that is upsetting or angering and they anchor to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what they follow. That's what they chase.
And by projecting anger yourself, you're actually reinforcing that earth connection. Then you're reinforcing that base, and perhaps you can't diffuse anger by anger. So right. So what you're saying is that
it'll
go ahead.
You can't drive out a base emotion with a base emotion, and you can't fix somebody else's base emotions with your base emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So you think somebody starts shouting at you and they're screaming it, and you suddenly respond with, "Oh, hey, how are you doing?" It really takes people aback. Like, don't you hear what it was? There was a funny thing I was talking with Joel about that I remember when we were in Idaho. We were in his little car, and we'd stopped at a light, and we were talking about some of the stuff we were doing for the day, which was we were driving to Julia Davis Fun Spot for work, and these guys pull up around the car, and this is on a 2-lane highway, pull up alongside Joel and I. We're stopped there and scream out the car, "Get off the road, N-word!" And I'm like, and I looked at Joel and I said, "Oh, he said that." I said, "Technically, your mother's Dutch, right?" A line from Blazing Saddles. So now we're laughing our heads off, right? And we're driving along the road again. We get the road widens up to 2 lanes on either side, and we stop at the light. Oh, look, it's the guys in the pickup, right? And we're still laughing about this. And they look at us and they're wondering, why are they laughing, right? Not realizing that they didn't cause us one iota, and it was nothing negative towards them. We're just throwing lines at each other from Blazing Saddles and laughing. And that made, it was one of the more fun afternoons. And we turned what would have been, if we had taken that negativity to heart,
right,
we might have been, it would have just ruined the day. Instead we went to work laughing.
Wow. I'm going to have to change the title of the show to Manifesting Light, because this is way cool. I love this discussion. And I don't want it to end. Don't think I'm pushing you off, because, I think what we're covering is really important stuff. And I think it's beautiful that you guys didn't let them create a reality for you. You didn't let them create that bubble of ugliness around you. You guys just totally deflected it. And it's a beautiful and poetic response to that base ugliness, and you didn't let anything else control you, and that's incredible.
And to finish the cap on the story, because this is the cherry, we drive a little bit further on, and Joel says, "Yeah, I'm not going to let these clowns on this on the road get me down," and we pull up to a red light and stop, and I'm looking at Joel, and I'm thinking, yeah, clown. And a person going to a party with a truck that says Bobo's Parties and Clown something or other pulls up, and the guy in grease paint right next to Joel. And I looked at Joel, my eyes widened, and I pointed a finger over his shoulder. He turned around and looks back at me and says, "Of course, of course."
Oh, wow. That is awesome. The universe was totally like, yep, ding, ding, ding. That's brilliant. That is so cool. And it's, go ahead.
20-something years later, we still laugh about it. Sorry, go ahead.
That's such a serendipity and a synchronicity in its own way. It's like, I think it really reinforces the idea that this is a school, this is a training ground, and we are learning, and that was like you said, that's the cherry on the sundae, because it was like a reward. Like, yeah, let's all laugh together. Like the universe was laughing with you and going, "Yep, you did it. You won." I think that's beautiful.
It was really one of my most fun days. In amongst some pretty painful and starvation laden days that we were there for that summer. But it definitely had moments like that where we were receptive to the light, and it was great. I actually remember more the fun than the horrible, which is, you got to remember that we seem to be geared more to remember terrible events for some strange reason. But I look back, and all I have are, since coming to that realization, is a lot of these wonderful golden moments and this path that led me to be able to help people.
Amen.
And it is a wonderful experience. I wish I could get everyone on it. I know I can't, but I really wish that I could. And so
maybe little by little
that's why
we're
I'm
doing
here.
that. But we're going to take another break, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away. Sean, you're welcome to stay on the line, and we can continue on the other side, or if you got to go, I understand. But it's your call.
Oh, I got plenty of time.
All right.
I'll stick around.
Okay, we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away for more of the Paranormal Portal. And that's the bumper music dead end that we always hit here on the YouTube side, but and on Skype. But I think on TFR that actually rolls to a nice nice fade. But on these live streams, it seems to just hit a wall and stop. It must be a noise gate or something. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. And we are cruising the night away. And I started the night thinking we're going to have incredible paranormal encounters. And I got to say that I'm not wrong. And when I came up with the title of the show, I'm not wrong. But I think it may not be quite exactly as I intended. But I love that this is the way the portal works. It's a discussion. It's a round table of thoughts and ideas, and sometimes all my own. But when you guys participate, it includes you guys as well. And it's just the way the journey shaped itself tonight. So I guess in a holistic kind of outlook, it's just that this is what needed to be said tonight. Excuse me. But before we go back, of course, we're joined by Sean Gonzalez via phone tonight. He's our phone-in guest, which is wonderful. I'm glad you could make it, Sean. But ladies and gentlemen, definitely check out ialife.com. That's the Chris and Cherie's CBD company, and it's amazing stuff. Now, I full disclosure, I have a vested interest in this because it's something that I and my wife are involved with as well. But I honestly would not ever put my integrity on the line for something I didn't believe in. If I didn't believe 100% in the iLife product, I wouldn't bother talking about it. I would just stay involved in the background of it. But it's something I completely believe in. And if you're not aware of the health benefits and of the CBD oils, definitely check them out. It's I think there is a resurgence of consciousness in a lot of ways, and people are going back to the natural remedies, and which is wonderful because in our pharmaceutical age, the side effects outweigh the good that the medicine is supposed to do. So we need to go back to those naturals and get back to our roots. And find those things which nature provides. It's an amazing product. It's absolutely palatable. Actually, when I was on the break, I heard the commercial. I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't taken any of this evening. So I took my couple droppers full just now, and it's like, yeah, I mean, this is a product I wholeheartedly believe in. And again, if you go over to ialife.com and enter the code TFR on checkout, you'll save $5 on your order, and it's already one of the most reasonably priced products out there. It doesn't taste like you're chewing on a shoe like a lot of the other ones do. It's absolutely delicious. I mean, it's really well formulated. It's amazing. And it also includes the bee cappy from the ayahuasca vine, which is not the psychoactive part of it. It's not the hallucinogenic part of the plant. It's the healer part of the plant. In the Amazon, they call the bee cappy the healer. And so it's really amazing stuff. Check it out. ialife.com. But welcome back, Sean, and I appreciate you being here with me tonight and helping me on this journey.
Thank you. Well, I love being here. I didn't think I was going to be hijacking the show, though, so I apologize.
No,
for
you're
that.
not, though. See, that's the thing. I mean, this is a dialogue. This is a discussion, and it's a discussion I'm thrilled to have, and I know that it needs to be heard, and I really value your insights. I value anybody's insights that wants to contribute to the conversation, but you've brought some fantastic things to the table, and so it's not you hijacking the show, it's you helping me do the show. So let's look at it that way, because it's the truth.
Okay. I just felt a little guilty that you're going to be changing the name of the show.
Oh, no.
Just because I interjected a little, because one of the things that you, when you're on the path, I know I'm supposed to be very humble about it, but I'm a little bit more than humble, mm-hmm. because of the way that I was raised.
Sure.
Being in an abusive family, where your nickname, my nickname, was El Feo, the ugly, mm-hmm. my whole life. It's hard not to, as I've told you before, not feel like I'm intruding even when I'm being told I'm welcome. Mm. So it's just my way, and I don't mean anything by it. So I'm sorry.
No, please don't. I mean, I appreciate that you're sharing that, but I just want you to know your insights are incredibly valuable, and I'm thrilled that you chose to do it tonight on the show. I mean, you have to understand the viewpoint from my perspective, Sean, is that I do a show and I do the best I can to fill it with what information I can. But when other people choose to contribute to that conversation and share their wisdoms and share their light and their insights, to me that's a gift. I look at it as like a gift. Like, wow, these people are so involved in the show that they want to share those things here. So I look at it as a compliment, a really profound compliment. So that's how I see it. So now, I hope you
I do love
understand.
coming here. I do. I do love coming on your show. It's one of the most welcoming environments, especially for people like myself who are gifted.
Yeah.
Let me share one
Please.
gift of the Magi with you guys.
Whatever you'd like to share.
Literally, the what I had learned literally comes from the original Magi, from the Bible. Those three wise men were three Magi, wise people who learned what I actually studied. Far in the past, of course, because the Kabbalah is ancient. But this understanding of wisdom beyond yourself and following the golden path, even in like, I'm not well-to-do at all. In fact, I do what I do on my channel for free. Nobody pays me. I don't demand money. Nobody sends me cash. And sometimes, like as in this year, we have a money crunch at the end of the year because the work that I do, because I work in nutrition, I help people with nutritional problems and sell products to different stores. It doesn't always pay well at the end of the year because the stores usually don't like paying until they can, as long as they can, all the way up till February. So,
Sure.
But this year, as with most of them, I figured, let's just give it up once again to this golden path. And let's just follow where things are going to go. So what happened was the landlady said we didn't have to pay rent.
Wow.
Because it wasn't really all that necessary. She said, don't have to pay rent. And I said, wow, that's incredible. And in amongst all of this, I had actually come up with ways to save money so we'd have more money by taking old wool blankets and making coats that we needed because it gets pretty cold here in the high desert in Lancaster and Tehachapi and all around here. It gets way below zero, freezing. 32 degrees is probably a warm afternoon on some days in Tehachapi and down here in the valley. And so we're making these things, and I'm finding I ordered a few off of eBay. They didn't arrive on time, which I wasn't upset about. And so they gave me the shipping back free.
Wow.
And so here comes all this money starts coming in. And it kept unrolling like this. We went up to to see a parade in Tehachapi for Christmas on I believe it was the 2nd. And we were lamenting that we didn't have the money then because we were buying a few necessity things like warm socks for the boys, etc. And we hadn't been able to get any candy. And in no other years did they do this. The next thing I know, the kids' hands are being stuffed full of peppermint candies, Twix, Kit Kat.
That's awesome.
You name it. Okay, the kids are now getting candy, and it was almost like things were just manifesting as we were saying, well, it's too bad we couldn't, but it's okay that we didn't have it, and there it was, handed to us each time.
Wow.
And that's part of following the miracle, is realizing that those are miracles. They're everyday miracles in our lives, and it makes your life a wonderful thing.
Do you suppose the journey of life is meant to teach you to always go into that state? Because the way that we both describe it, it's almost akin to a superpower, like, well, things are tough. Let me split open my shirt and show the S because, now it's necessary. But if we could remember, and maybe that's our journey, is to get to the point where we don't have to remember because we're manifesting it all the time. That we forget and we fall back into the world of our cosmetic world, and we forget, but that we won't have to whip it out like a superpower, and when it's needed to save the day, that we will just manifest it always because that's the way Oh my God, sorry, that was a big burp. That was gross. But
I've been muting myself, but I had those myself.
I just took a
Sorry.
big
I've been
swig.
just as burpy.
Oh God! But well, you were smarter than I was. Obviously, I did a whole throat gurgle there. It's like I'm like I'm going full Jabba the Hutt here. Ooty ba tooty solo. But that we have to get to that point where we're manifesting that energy, that magnetism, or you know what I mean. That we're shaping our world according to our light, not according to our fear or our distractions and things that we fall into that cosmetic vision.
Right.
Would you agree?
Yes, it happens to me as well. I try to stay in that as much as possible. I think I've gotten my days to where I don't slip out of it easily, but it does happen, and I find myself losing it. And it's for the simple fact that there are some things that I still haven't learned how to get through that in that way, because I haven't encountered the way to keep it going, to keep that moment going, to keep that. The only way that I know how to describe it accurately to people out there, and this is going to bend some people's noodles pretty hard. And this was told to me by someone who actually had attained it for a time in their life and then lost it willingly so that they could go back into the theater. Because in order to maintain a theater, you cannot be in that golden moment. And here's what he told me it was. It is a extremely calm hilarity.
That's pretty cool.
An extremely calm hilarity. I didn't get that until the very first time I got to that calm, cool, state of calm hilarity. And whenever I having to do work for people who are in danger, that moment, I'm able to draw myself back into it. And my wife can even tell you when it's happening, because she looks at my arms and all the hairs on my arms they stand right up, back of my neck as well. It is an energetic moment, and I have to be careful around her, because if I do it for too long, she is not there with me. It's something I really wish that I could just give her as a gift, but it sometimes leaves her feeling woozy or dizzy, as if her senses have been overwhelmed. So I have to do it in a different room than her. Same thing when I'm enlisting my eldest son's abilities too. We have to keep her slightly away from us, or else she. I had to do it most recently for a friend who was in trouble, and she was overwhelmed, and I had to hold her hand and give her cold compresses for about an hour. But she's getting better. It used to be that she would be bad for a couple of days.
Well, it's I suppose there's probably a correlation to that, right? Where if you're going to work in a higher energy manifestation, then there probably is a period of needing to bring the body to adjustment to handling that increased energy flow. Would you agree?
Yes. And she, because of all of her medical issues, she's got cerebral palsy. So I have to take care of her. That's why my job has to work from home. And she also had endometriosis a couple of years ago. She had to have her entire uterus removed because they were now outgrowing. And so she's not debilitated, but right. She's ambulatory, but still a lot of things have taken their toll on her in this life.
Sure.
So her life has not been an easy road to hoe.
Right. Well, at least you've got each other, I mean, that's really cool. And she has someone that's incredibly compassionate and willing to help her hoe the row, as it were. I think that's really powerful.
And she's a very strong individual in a lot of ways, and she doesn't realize that she's dealt with a lot more than most people. She took it in stride, and so I think she was 7 or 8, they had to perform a surgery on her where she was still awake in order to stop the palsy. So and for that they had to carve into her while she was awake, and then destroy a couple of nerve endings in the back of both of her calves, so that the muscles in her legs would only work in one direction. This allowed her to walk without having to use braces. Not an ideal solution, but and it was horrible for her, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure it was she was meant to learn something from these things, and she doesn't feel that way. But I think she could come around to understanding it, because she sees it, and this is also in animals too that come into our lives. When they come into our lives and they enrich our existence, and we are never the same again for that. It's a perfect example. I know I've discussed this with you, especially with my cat Loon that died this year. And they make our world bigger, and they make our sensibilities greater.
Right.
And they are literally a part of the golden path if you know how to feel that you're on that path in that moment with them. It's a small slice of it when the cat is purring on your lap. Talking to you, Diana, you know what I'm talking about, because you got that little black beauty there.
Yeah, I got a black beauty too.
Ever.
Yeah. And it's funny because Anubis is my cat, and actually it took quite a long time for him to warm up. He's always been a really aloof cat, but just in the last month or so, he just suddenly turned a corner, and now he's jumping up and snuggling and stuff. And so it was like, I don't know, it took him a while, or it took me a while, or it took us a while. I mean, I loved him all the whole time, and I'm a cat lover. I'm a dog lover as well too, but he finally did. And now I can feel his inclusion in the energetic impression, and I don't know how to explain it, but animals seem to be like energetic multipliers, like, kind of akin to an intelligent crystal, for not to demean them, but you know what I'm saying? It's like they work in such an energetic way just naturally, whereas we have to work to get to that point.
And they give back anything that is good that you give. Comes back by the rule of 7 times 7, and that's the reason why they are such an energetic multiplier. You give love, they give you back, and this is the same in anything you do in the world. If you, instead of allowing someone who does you wrong to do wrong back to them, if you extend the goodness to them and see the pained child within the screaming and the injury that you see before you, it diffuses it immediately, and the inner parent, the inner light comes out, and it stops the negative. And so if that is the normal response each time, then the world becomes greater on an order of 7 times 7, as even the Bible dictates. I think when Jesus was becoming a rabbi, that was one of the books that he must have read, because a lot of the passages when he says certain prophetic things are based on treat a man as you would be treated. That's in the Kabbalah. Do if you give energy, you receive. What you give will come back to you even greater. It's always the same. If you give negative, it comes back negative. If you give bread, when your son says he's hungry.
Do you want to hear? Do you want to hear in Serendipity? Guess how much time is left of the show?
Sure.
7 minutes.
10 minutes?
7.
7 minutes.
So it's kind of perfect. Yeah, absolutely perfect. So there's a correlation synchronicity for y'all, that as we're talking about 7s, that's exactly how much time we got left. Now, as a side note, I've and I might as well just ask you right on air here, because I've been meaning to email you, but I was thinking about having kind of a roundtable with like yourself, Joel, if he's available, Diane, and Deborah, and just have a roundtable discussion about spirits and about things like protection and, many different topics. Are you interested in taking part of that?
I'd love to.
Okay, good. I'm going to figure out the logistics of that, but it's going to come up, I think, before Christmas if everybody's available. Could you check with Joel and see if he's free on a Friday coming up, and we'll look at it?
I'll ask him. I'll definitely ask him.
Well, that's absolutely wonderful. And Because I think it'll be a great opportunity for us to just, share many different viewpoints, many ideas, and find the, I don't know, I think that just many minds, the whole many minds concept. And we've never done it on the show before, and I think that would be a lot of fun to have that roundtable discussion. We'll have to talk privately about how to structure it so we're not all talking over each other, but
Yeah, because with some of us, including myself, as soon as you ask a question, you ask the question and the brain automatically throws all the answers out there and just straight to the front of the tongue.
I know exactly. So we might have to include a timer into the discussion, but I think it'd be a great opportunity for us to share a lot of insights and ideas, and I think the listeners would really like it. The feedback from the listeners has been like, yeah, that'd be great. Do it. So I'm just putting it out there for you. So consider yourself invited, and I'll be in touch to get the logistics. But thank you so much for sharing the journey with me tonight. That's been awesome.
You're welcome. And thank you for having me. Should I plug my channel?
Oh, absolutely. Please do. Let people know where to find you.
Okay. Yeah, if you want any more information on this kind of thing, or if you like what you've heard from me, come on over to Ian's Magic Oak. That's IANS MAGICKOAK, and it's a YouTube channel. And you can also email me the same way. Just change it to @gmail.com if you have questions. I help people for a living, no matter who they are. I don't charge anything, and I usually can do it remotely because it's not really all that difficult to reach anywhere except the other side of the planet. England is pretty much the longest I can stretch myself out. And my channel also covers a lot of things that you may see in the media, whether it's factual or not, including a lot of ghost hunting things that are sometimes more narrative building than trying to teach you anything.
Very cool, brother. And yeah, I mean, it's a great channel, ladies and gentlemen, and I expect to be invited back for another Paranormals and Coffee, too. The last one was good. But...
Oh, I will as soon as... but it cut off 20 minutes shy of the end.
That happens here on the portal,
too. It's the only Paranormals and Coffee we had that didn't get to 1 hour.
Yeah. It happens. It's the portal curse for whatever it's worth, the technical glitches. But no, I really appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much for being on and being a part of it, and I will be in touch.
Thank you very much. Everybody have a good night and stay blessed.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Well, at about 3 minutes left, I wonder if I can leave you with a quick story. Let me see if I got a quick one. Okay. This one is, it's a really quick one. It says, when I lived in Pennygross, Carmarthenshire, this is Pennsylvania, my sister and I were told the house was haunted. When I was in the kitchen, I could feel sometimes a presence behind me. Close enough to be looking over my shoulder. I was sure it was a lady. My sister said she felt the same presence. She woke up in the morning and saw a woman with dark hair and blue eyes at the end of her bed smiling at her. After my sister and I moved out, I was visiting my mom, and she had a late night shift, so I was in the house alone watching TV, and I felt the presence a few minutes later. I heard a laugh, and I looked in the kitchen, and I saw the very same woman. Quick little story, ladies and gentlemen, but it's a nice spirit. It's not a spooky spirit. Those are kind of nice. And it's been such a wonderful night with wonderful discussion, and it's been an incredible journey, as always, on the portal. I love it when these shows kind of form themselves. And it's funny because I've always thought that, but I've listened to other shows on TFR, including Freaky Friday, and they said things like, yeah, we had no idea what we were going to do, but we just kind of came on, and it was one of the greatest shows. And I have to say that I agree. When the conversation is allowed to just happen, and when we can share ideas and thoughts without worry of a structure or a format or, covering certain points, we can discover all this gnosis, like Chris says. Chris Gio always uses the term gnosis, and I like that. That we can just follow it where it goes and see where the journey ends. But it never ends because the portal is always coming back, ladies and gentlemen. So we will be back again tomorrow night with Lisa Martin of Paranormal Science Lab. She's an incredible lady, runs Paranormal Science Lab group on Facebook. They do a lot of researching and a lot of investigating, and they host ghost tours and stuff. Just a fantastic group. She's been on the show before, and I'm excited to be having her back. So that'll be tomorrow night. Don will be joining me. Miss Lisa Martin will be on the show with us. And stick around here on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, TalkStream Live. Nikki Colombo is coming on next. And she is just, she's an energetic spitfire, but her energy is absolutely contagious. Wonderful person. I have not met her too much personally, but definitely check it out. So, and then after that, of course, comes Jimmy Jean into the microcosm with Brandy, and I think Rio's coming on as well. So it's an epic night here on TFR, everybody. Hey, Regular, I see you in the TFR chat. Good to see you. Hey, Nikki's in the TFR chat. She's waiting. Oh, tonight's guest is Brooks Agnew on Nikki's show, so don't miss it, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be an epic journey. Brooks has been on this show many times. Awesome guy. So I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other, and we'll be back tomorrow night for another fun-filled episode of the Paranormal Portal. All right, guys. We'll see you then. Take care.